A new UN report indicates that hunger has been narrowly averted in Somalia. The report released on Tuesday says humanitarian organizations and the local community interventions have helped avoid a serious crisis. The country, which has been experiencing its driest weather conditions in over 40 years, has not technically declared famine. However, about 8.3 million people are at risk of acute food shortages, and aid agencies warn the crisis could get worse if urgent assistance is not delivered. Well, we're now joined by, let's now cross over to and hear more about this from well, a United Nations report, let me just phrase this question to you. A United Nations report on Somalia issued Tuesday finds that famine in that country has been averted narrowly. What exactly does this mean?
Well, thank you very much for bringing me in this live show. The integrated phase classification follows a technically rigorous process, which means that to declare famine in a place, at least 20% of the households of that particular area must be facing acute food shortage or starvation. At least 30% of the children in that area must be severely acute malnourished, and there must be a death above 2 per 10,000 per day. Whether or not famine has been, or the criteria has been made, the people in Somalia is living in dire conditions. Half of the people, about 7.8 million people, have been impacted by this drought, either directly or indirectly. Over a million people have been displaced. Now, what we see that the country is fighting with diseases, deaths, climate change, COVID-19, and crisis all at the same time. And the multiple tragedies are impacting the lives of the people every day. As I talk, 1 in 6 people sleep hungry in this country. 1 in 7 child is not receiving the childhood and the life-saving vaccines, which are important for saving their lives. And 1 in 10 child are going to the health facilities to seek medical care, which are easily preventable from any reasons. Now, this is a situation which is unprecedented, and this is a question of life and death of mass scale for this country. The world needs to act now before it is too late and too little. And I can give you an example that in 2011, close to 260,000 lives were lost in Somalia because famine was declared quite late, and people paid with their lives, and half of them were children. So learning from these lessons, what we know that whether we have a famine which is technically meeting the criteria or not, we need to act now before it is too late and too little.
All right. Apologies for that. Dr. Malik, you're joining us from Somalia, and you're based in Somalia. So what is the situation on the ground as we speak, and is the international community doing enough to avert famine?
I think that, as I said, that the magnitude and the scale of this crisis is unprecedented. So we need to really match, our response needs to match with the scale and the magnitude of the problem. Now, humanitarian organizations, the United Nations, including the World Health Organization, to which I'm representing today, are doing enough to make sure the people's lives are safe. But what is important that there is a severe drought which have not seen in this country for the last 40 years because of the 4th consecutive rain failure. And in 2023, we don't see a bright future only because that the funding, everybody is suffering from a funding crisis. This is a stagnancy, which we can call it. And what we need to invest not only on band-aid, like saving the lives, but we need to make sure that we also build resilience so that these chronic situations and cycle of droughts and the climate crisis can be prevented and mitigated as much as possible. Now, what the humanitarian organizations are doing, about 4.6 million people are receiving food assistance every month. Close to 3 million children have been vaccinated against measles. Over 1 million people have been vaccinated against cholera vaccines. Now, every day, the organizations are making sure the children, mother, and all vulnerable people who need to access healthcare are get that health services close to where they are living. But the problem is that people are moving from one place to another because climate crisis is the biggest driver for displacement.
Right.
So finding those people and providing healthcare is becoming a major challenge to all of us.
Well, Dr. Malik, you know, we've been talking about the situation in Somalia for decades now. So in your view, though, what else do you think is needed in Somalia?
The most important is that we need to build on the resilience. And we need to make sure that we don't shift from the developmental focus of this country. If we talk about the health system, it is one of the most fragile and vulnerable health system. But this is because we have not invested on this nexus, meaning that development, resilience. So making sure that we need to scale up our humanitarian operations, but not at the cost of the developmental focus. So we need to make sure that the investment that we are making now is sustainable in the longer run, so that the health system becomes stronger and food security system becomes stronger, agriculture system becomes stronger, and that's how we can sustainably recover from this situation that what we are seeing today.
All right, Dr. Malik Mamunur, the WHO representative in Somalia, joining us there. Thank you very much indeed for your insights.